Hey there, I'm Caden Rains and welcome to my basement. Today we're looking at another pop-up diorama from Extreme Sets, this one being their castle from their animated line. I managed to snag this on sale while I had a gift card, so I was like, well, I did like the sewer one, so I thought I would take a look at this castle one. And yeah, I've put it together. It took about half an hour. Probably could have done a little faster, but I do think one of the faults with these pop-up dioramas, or at least with extreme sets, is that the instructions could be clearer. They're pretty much all one sheet where the pieces are laid out, but then you have some that are similar. Like you have two different top steps, two different middle steps, two different bottom steps. It wasn't as noticeable on the previous set, the sewer, but I noticed it with these stairs especially. And then because the instructions are so condensed, things like this coffin and aspects like the stairs and to a lesser degree the cell area were a little trial and error that I think could have been improved upon. But getting that aside, I do think this is a pretty neat setup, and while it comes by default in this more contained space we've got with three walls, so the fourth wall is where you put the figures in through. Because of the way it's set up, you can have all four walls flat going one direction. And that's what I aim to do when I get it on the shelf. Hopefully I'm right about the way that works. Before we take it to the shelf, let's take a look at what all the pieces are. There are two of these column pieces, one as the default, one by the cell area, and then one on the other side. So they're kind of just meant to cap off the thing. There are three doors. Two of them are just on the side walls, and all three do open, although because, get that out of the way. There we go. Well, it's kind of hard to show because of the, like in the previous one, the bottom floor piece, which is a very big piece. It does have that bend. You could probably work out, keep flattening it out after a while, but because of the way my shelves are set up, and because each quadrant of the floor is about the same length as each wall, I'm probably going to cut this down the middle. I thought about that with the sewer one, and I still might do it, but I'm more likely to do it with this one because I want, the thing I have imagined, and I think I've measured correctly, is that I can have all four of these pieces taking up about half of one of the shelves. But we'll see that in a few minutes, I guess. So anyway, so we've got that door. This door, which I did have opening more earlier. It was the one I tested first. So it might, yeah, there we go. So there we go. You can have somebody coming through that. And then there's a standalone wall piece here, which is in front of the caddy corner to the two stairs section. And so this is contained, so you can have another person coming out there. Then there's, like I said, there's the big stairs, there's the small stairs, and then there's what they call the stair wall, just to give you something there. None of those connect into anything else. They just sit next to each other. So it might have been nice to have a little tab the way the walls tab together, which you can see here. But it's a small complaint. I mean, yeah. So that's pretty neat. I do think it's a pretty good build. The only problem I have again is that the instructions, because they're so condensed, you kind of have to figure out what they mean a little bit. It wasn't like terribly difficult, but an extra step for each set of stairs would have been nice. The cells do not open, although because it's just an opening up here, It's not like it's hard to put characters in there. And if you don't use the cells, like the extra little room behind it, then it's probably even easier to pop figures in there. But, you know, the option's there. And the last little bit is this coffin, which is all right looking. However, I did feel the need to use tape on both sides because it really felt like it was going to pop out or pop back apart, because it's just two pieces of cardboard. And this is the thinner cardboard, so it's closer to paper, really. When it's together, it's fine, but I felt that it needed the little bit of tape to keep the inside together, which was kind of a bummer. None of the other pieces have felt that. As far as scale, you know, it's pretty good with a 6-inch scale. It might be closer to 7-inch with those doors, but it's not like a problem. I don't think most figures are gonna fit in this. Maybe a skinnier figure, because you can see Skeletor there. At least this one. Maybe a skinnier figure could fit in this, but I don't really think that's intended. I think it's just for display. So that's, I don't know if I'd call that a bummer, because, I mean, at least I have other coffin stuff. We looked at that Vampire Mr. Burns, which would fit in here. But anyway, so that is the set, the pop-up diorama from the castle. It is pretty good looking. I think that the design overall is nice, and for the most part, it all flows together without being too noticeable. I would guess if I had to complain about any of the walls, it'd be this one here, which is what they default to. It doesn't really seem like that, I don't know, drape should be behind this wall. But that's a very little thing, and like I said, I will probably not leave it like this once it gets to the shelf, because I have a little more expansive shelf covering in mind for this than I did with the sewer layer. So why don't we pop this on the shelf and see if my idea about what it's going to cover really works. Okay, so I'll see you once that's up. And here we go with the shelf set up. Like I said, I was able to turn the latches or slots or whatever you want to call them, where normally there'd be a turn in the wall, but you could turn the notches so that you can make a straight wall. And it covers with just 3 of the 4 panels, because it was 2 panels for the back wall and 1 for either side when we had it on the table before. But with just 3 of them, it covers half of the shelf space, and which is what I was aiming for. I thought it would take all 4, but I guess I measured wrong somewhere, which, you know, whatever. But it means that if I ever expand this shelving, which I've got this chunk here, this is where the table will go back when I, you know, fix it. We're getting there. But I have thought about extending the shelves here. But for the meantime, we've got the sewer down there, and above it, this castle set up. And because Bowser and his family is going to go back here, and I thought, well, I've got this Mario, and if I'm going to have this cell section, even if I don't have the space to even have the background behind it, I might as well put someone in the cell and have someone gloat while he's there. That might change in the future, but whatever. Seeing it in, you know, on the shelf now, I haven't cut the floor, because I'm not done setting up the rest of the shelf, and I don't know how much of that I'm actually going to need. But seeing it in place, I do like the way it's come out. The only, I guess, issue is if you're looking at it from the side, which this is a me problem. Obviously, this doesn't look great. I might put a figure here to have him like creeping, but there's supposed to be a wall here, and I just am not setting it up the way it's intended. So that's not something you can count against the set. So don't, I guess, if you're interested in this. One thing I did notice as I was putting it on the shelf that I didn't notice when it was on the table is that the lanterns, at least to me, do look like what you'd get out of a toy set, but you know, just they're printed instead of being an actual piece of plastic. So I like that little detail. It might just be me seeing things, but it looks that way to me. Like it's a very different with this lantern than it is like with the plants there. The plants are painted on, and technically the lanterns are too, but it looks like they took a picture or 3D modeled some kind of toy lantern, and that's what they pasted on there, and I appreciate that. I think it looks pretty good for what it is. So, like I said, this isn't the entire thing. Like with the sewer, I'm not using the whole thing on the shelf just because of the space I have. But if you have a wide open space, you saw it when it was on the table, how much space it takes up. So just keep that in mind if you're interested in these dioramas. They do have a really big footprint if you're not doing them the way I am, which I think is a little bit off what's expected. But I knew what I wanted with these shelves, and this is approaching it now. So I will be filling up this section with the same kind of stuff that was on it before. We had the Koopa family, the Koopa Troopa, whatever, and then I'll finally add some more. But I do have a little bit of something to go here, but we'll have to wait till next time to see what that's going to be. So for now, let me know down below what you think of the castle diorama pop-up from Extreme Sets. Do you think it looks good? Do you think it looks cheap? Do you think I should take Mario out of the cell, or do you think that's where he should be? Otherwise, though, I hope you had a good time in my basement today, and I'll see you in the next one.